The audience knows the truth. The world is simple and miserable, solid all the way through. But if you could fool them, even for a second, then you can make them wonder. And then you got to see something very special. Welcome back to the Enneagram and writing. Today we're going to be studying how to effectively write the 3 archetype. But without further ado, what do type 3s look like in fiction? 3s have an incredible range in the roles they play in narrative, which I think is delightfully fitting for these very dynamic and versatile people. I also found it very interesting how 3 characters played into or helped clarify themes of community, ambition, and occasionally, in the case of the villains, hubris. So let us take a look at the list. We have Jace Tallis from Arcane, Adolin Colin and Navani Colin from the Stormlight Archive, and also Venli from Stormlight as well, Nikolai Lantsov from Shadow and Bone, Jenya Safin and Nina Zenik, also from the Grishaverse, Mia from La La Land, Gabby Brown from Attack on Titan, Lando Calrissian from Star Wars, Ron Weasley, Draco Malfoy from Harry Potter, Robert Angier from The Prestige, who you may have recognized that quote from, Jamie Tart and Nate Shelley from Ted Lasso, great show, Jay Gatsby from The Great Gatsby. You also have Gamora, and you've got Quentin Beck, both from the MCU, Lightning McQueen from Cars, Mr. Incredible from The Incredibles, Breeze Ladrian from Mistborn, Jesper Johansson from Klaus, and Admiral Zhao from Avatar: The Last Airbender. So yeah, looking at 3s in fiction is casting a very wide net. But there are also some key themes that run through each one of these individuals. And as a side note, that's another very interesting thing about 3s. They can fill any role you want them to, but they've always got a distinctive sense of style, and you can see that in the list. All right, now I'm going to dig into those through lines and points of contrast by breaking down 3 tips and common misconceptions about writing 3s, and then I'm going to get into 2 specific tropes that and kind of how they interact with the character archetype. And we are going to start with know what they value. You thought I was going to do it, didn't you? I was going to rant. I was going to rant about behavior over motivation, like I do every single time. But no, I have decided that moving forward, I'm not going to bore you with the same rant every video, but I'm gonna mix it up and keep the flavor, have a different flavor for each type. You know what I'm saying? Anyway, understanding the motivation of the type 3 often comes down to knowing what they value. Since 3s look within themselves and find what they see in their lacking, they try to fill that ache by pursuing applause and affirmation. So what gets them affirmation? I mean, let's look at Ron Weasley. He was constantly overshadowed by his successful and charismatic older brothers that he felt invisible. So it makes sense that when we see what Ron truly wants, he's Quidditch captain and head boy. Success for Ron looked like bringing home stories from Hogwarts that his family would be proud of. 3s want to be seen, yes, but knowing how your 3s want to be seen will define and direct your character's actions in a lot of meaningful ways. And on the flip side of that, if you want to write an impactful 3 character, know their insecurity too. Because on the outside, 3s are like the most confident and capable people on the planet. And don't get me wrong, they kind of are. Like, this isn't entirely an illusion. But so much of this confidence is driven by the fear that maybe it isn't enough. And it's something that should be handled with kindness and sensitivity, absolutely. But as the writer, this is a very important thing to know, especially when you're fleshing out those character arcs. And I think if we neglect the fear of failure, we not only end up with a shallower character, half a character, but we also perpetuate the lie that the outward image of the 3 is all that matters. I think that Mia from La La Land is a really good example of this, because on the surface, she's chasing fame and fortune, trying to make it as an actress and sell her art, and when you look at it that way, she's not a very sympathetic character. But then go listen to Audition. And in that, we get to see the depth of her longing to create something beautiful. We see how enraptured she is by her aunt's stories and how afraid she is that she's incapable of telling a story like that and doing what that did for her. And that's what breaks our hearts for her. That's what makes her sympathetic. This last one is more technical, but it's something I've noticed a lot in fiction and wanted to talk about. Because it's very easy to misunderstand how the type 3 shapeshifting works. And I'm gonna be honest, take what I'm about to say with a grain of salt, because I'm not even sure that I know for certain. And if you're type 3, please feel free to correct me in the comments. I would love to hear from you guys. But I've started to learn that 3s don't just have masks they wear, like a false face with a real one underneath, and they definitely don't just have one. 3s curate and cultivate their personas for every single individual occasion, and each one is subtly different depending on who might be present. And one 3 in the book, The Road Back to You, joked, "3s don't have one persona, we are legion." And it's really easy, as I've found in my own writing, to fall into a binary mask on, mask off personality for my own 3 characters. But that's just not how it works. And I think even in that, 3s to the 3, it's not putting on a mask. It's, I'm just displaying different facets of my personality and just responding to the room. And this is a very convenient segue, once again, because the trope I want to talk about first is the mask. This trope is actually one of my newfound pet peeves, and I'm going to tell you why. The mask is what I've decided to call a villain who manipulates and lies to get what they want, usually playing sides against each other for their own nefarious purposes. But what these stories do, especially movies, and especially Marvel movies, I'm looking at you, Iron Man villains, is they'll give this villain a very 3 dynamic, a very 3 external personality by having them read the room, solve ambitious problems, and appear to the rest of the world as the good guy. On the outside, they have everything put together, but then in the climax, these villains will snap and they go full villain, they shed the cool exterior and just go berserk on the hero. They have a concrete good mask on the outside and a concrete evil heart on the inside. And this doesn't work for 3 villains. Because I think that true 3 villains will have all of that same silver-tongued machinations that these on-screen villains have, but it's the crucial moment that I think the mask trope gets wrong. The trope says, you thought I was good, but this is who I really am. And I think it's much more accurate when the 3 villain says, you thought I was good, but I don't really know who I am. 3's villainy is very unlikely to be fueled by vengeance for past wrongs, seeing as they try to forget shame, forget failure. And it's much more likely to be fueled by a need to be seen and appreciated by someone, in whatever form that may take. And my favorite example of this done well is Admiral Zhao from Avatar. First of all, he fits the narrative so well and plays into those dynamic themes of hubris, achievement, and community, or in Zhao's case, lack thereof. But he also isn't evil because he just wants to be or because he needs revenge. Zhao wants to be seen, and he's been told by his culture and country that he'll have everything he wants if he just serves the Fire Lord well. So in typical 3 fashion, he decides that he's going to serve the Fire Lord better than anyone ever did. He lost himself to the legend he wanted to become, and that consumed him in the end. Brilliant villain, brilliant show. Go watch Avatar: The Last Airbender, you guys. Shameless plug. Oh, okay. But now that we've gotten the villainy out of the way, I want to talk about trope number 2, and I'm calling this one Sins of the Father. I wasn't sure exactly what to call it, but I think you'll get what I mean in a minute. Because when 3s are growing and finding their potential as like a protagonist, there's often a sense of confronting the lies they grew up on. Like you have Draco Malfoy, constantly stifled by his father's choices and expectations. Nina Zenik, trying to escape the rigors of the Grisha and the looming disappointment of Zoya. And then like Gamora even trying to come to terms with her upbringing under Thanos and the competitive environment he fostered as a dad. Each one was fed these lies that if only they lived a certain way, everything would work out in their favor. That they would have everything they need and want, recognition, affection, even love. But in the end, these lies don't satisfy them. And so much of the 3 archetype has to do with reconnecting to the heart, to truth, and the authentic self. And in order to do that, 3s have to challenge those broken voices they've listened to for so long and break the cycle of lies and shame. And that leads into type 3s as a protagonist. As we've already seen, they're a very diverse bunch with a myriad of goals, dreams, achievements. And I don't know, I think what defines these protagonists is their commitment to authenticity. They aren't satisfied with just pleasing the crowd, so they push through into something deeper. And this is Gabby Brown from Attack on Titan. I may be pronouncing her name wrong, but nobody knows how to pronounce Attack on Titan names anyway, so it's fine. And I'm just gonna say I hated Gabby from her first moment on the screen. And this is not in any way a dig towards 3s. Gabby just rubbed me the wrong way. But she was one of my favorite characters by the end of the season. When we meet her, she's so full of these lies. She's constantly spouting them and desperate to prove herself to her superiors. But when we watch as she has to face those lies, what they mean really, she starts to change. And what's just super cool and very indicative of the wonderful hearts of the type 3 as a whole is that so very often they dig in and push through these lies for somebody that they love. And that's Gabby too. She turns her incredible competence and grit towards something better because at her core she wants to build up her community and the one she loves with her accomplishment. And that's where the heroism of these amazing people shine. So thanks again for sticking around, and I hope this was helpful for y'all. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, and share this video with your writer friends and your type 3 friends too. I'll see y'all next time to talk about type 4, the individualist.